It's a beautiful day outside, and I've got my sandals and socks on. I want to go for a ride. But I've got a problem. My motorcycle's in pieces. What to do? Let's build the motorcycle. If you remember in part 4 of the 164cc build series, we talked about all the different problems that we've had and also what we think the solutions are. Let's talk about what parts I've already put on. We added a high capacity oil pump. We've added a 15-tooth sprocket up front. We've added some super gnarly V-Rubber VRM 022 motorcycle tires. And although it's not showing here, we will have added an EFIE device, an electronic fuel injector enhancer device. And this adds to the other modifications already done to the bike, such as in here, I've got a crankshaft stabilizer from Takagawa, a 28mm Big Bore throttle, a Takagawa G1 fuel injector, higher capacity than the stock, and I no longer have a Takagawa piggyback fuel injector controller. I'm going to rely on that EFIE device. And today we're going to go ahead and switch out this Yuminashi 164C piston and cylinder kit for a Kitako 164cc cylinder and piston kit. The reason I'm switching that out, A, I want to try a different brand, and B, it actually has oil ports that are going to allow me later on to add an oil cooler. I also have a Takagawa S15 high profile camshaft in here as well. I'm going to refer you to a couple of videos. First, part 2 of the 164cc builds. That tells you how to kind of get into the piston and cylinder area. And then also part 3 of that same series, right up here. That'll finish that job. Following the same steps that you saw in videos 2 and 3, I'm going to go ahead and remove this so that you can take a look at the cylinder and piston on the inside. Here's the first look at that piston. Looks pretty good so far. Let's go ahead and pull it out all the way and we'll take a look all around it. Okay folks, here is the piston. You can see not nearly as bad as the previous ones. It does have some scraping on the top, which is probably some of the little bit of noise that I was hearing. However, your top ring, your ring number 1 looks good. Your oiling rings look pretty good, but the middle ring, the scraper, oil scraper ring, is absolutely stuck in the groove of this piston. So that's probably why I was getting some level of oil consumption. I can't really say much aside from that. Obviously, when we started burning some oil, you get a lot of soot on top of the piston itself. Looks pretty decent. You know, whether the scraping is from reusing the cylinder or not is a good question. We'll take a look at the cylinder next, but this one looks a lot better than the last two. Okay, here's the moment of truth. You definitely can see more wear on the inside of the cylinder. I'm gonna guess that's probably a little bit excessive, not really super bad. I don't have the aluminum smearing that I had before when I was definitely melting the piston. So moving up to the Takagawa G1 fuel injector certainly helped the situation. Again, I'm still probably running not quite perfect. Either way, I think the cylinder and piston need to be replaced with a brand new set instead of just replacing the piston this time, as was suggested in some of the comments. And we'll try that Kitako piston and cylinder next. I generally don't like doing unboxing videos, but take a look at this from Kitako. Got a nice installation manual, in English by the way, very nice. Comes with beautiful gaskets, as well as an exhaust gasket. Here's no doubt your piston. Here are your piston rings. It looks like these piston rings are serialized. That's a great sign. Definitely the cylinder right there. And a couple of plugs for the oil ports so that I can later add a oil cooler to this motorcycle. Pretty awesome. Here's that piston out of its packaging. Looks beautiful. It's interesting how each of the manufacturers has a very different design as far as pistons. You can see the little oiling holes under here. Here's the cylinder. Looks really good. Nothing really to complain about. I like the painting job they did on this. Looks really nice. You can see the 2 oil holes right over here. Very different than the Yuminashi that I had. I am quite pleased with the Kitako's quality. Let's go ahead and throw it on. These piston rings are pretty fancy as well. Look at this top ring. It looks like it's a bimetallic. 2 metals connected together. I have the top ring squared and inserted into the cylinder. Let's see how it measures. Using the feeler gauge, that gap is between 10 and 11 thousandths of an inch. The specification is 10.6 thousandths of an inch, so it is spot on. Here's the second ring. put in and squared. We're gonna go ahead and measure this gap down here. The second ring measured 16 thousandths of an inch. Specification for race would be 13 thousandths of an inch. So it's a little large. This would be more for a nitrous type application. I don't know why that has a significantly larger gap than necessary. Perhaps Kitako knows something that I don't. Nevertheless, bigger is better than smaller, so let's go ahead and throw this in as it is. Refer to part 1 of this series for instructions on how to put together a piston and cylinder kit. Looking good so far. Here's that piston and cylinder on the motorcycle. Slip the head on with the head gasket. Now it's just buttoning it up. The one thing that isn't explained in the instructions is what to do about the oil ports if you don't have the oil cooler yet. Looking at these, you can see there's an inlet on the bottom of this screw, and then you can see an outlet on the sides. And I believe that mates with this thing. You can see the little hole there, and I believe that hole goes all the way through this to this other side. I just blew through it, and it looks like it goes between the two red screws there. So I'm gonna assemble each screw like this with the screw, a washer, the black joiner, another washer. One thing to note is there are little holes on the hex head here, which line up with this outlet port. So I'm going to put that in line with the inlet and outlet on the black connector. Here I have the oil bypass all assembled. You can see those little holes in line with each other. All right, we're going to go ahead and try it without the EFIE device just to see if everything's working. Good. Sounds really, really good, actually. The bike is still stripped down for most of its plastics. However, I've taken it on the road. I've been up to 50 miles an hour so far, slowly breaking into new piston and cylinder. So far, things are running pretty well. Before I take it any faster, I'd really like to have an air-fuel ratio gauge. I'm gonna see what I can do to get one of those installed. As far as this new Kitako piston and cylinder, it seems smoother than the Yuminashi, especially at idle. I'm really pleased with the build so far, really looking forward to breaking it in further, and I'll give an update in part 6 of the 164cc series. For those of you joining us from the sprocket video, the 15-tooth sprocket is amazing. Really, really like it. Wanted to give you a quick update on it. No ABS light up to 50 miles an hour. Again, I'll be pushing it a little bit further a little later. And it gives about a 4% underestimation of the speed. In other words, when you are actually traveling 52 miles per hour, it'll show 50 miles per hour on the speedometer. It's really smooth. I like the RPMs. It's a great way to go if you have a big bore kit. Thanks for watching this video today. Again, had a lot of fun putting it together. If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell for the next installment. Oh man, I better get this changed out. My temporary license is now expired. I better throw on the permanent license plate.